Hey everyone! Today I'm going to be going through how to play Antiquity by doing a few moves and a brief overview, and I'm just going to start by setting up the game and you can watch that in fast motion. In Antiquity, the goal of the game is to build a cathedral into one of your cities and select one of the various win conditions. Once a win condition is selected, you'll gain an extra ability to help you achieve that win condition. For example, if you wanted to build a cathedral for San Nicolo, the win condition is to have 20 men. This means you'll need to build all of the houses that are available and bring all of your meeples into play. However, the extra ability you get to aid you in that endeavor is that when you build one of these houses, you'll get to build the lowest number house that's still available for free. The very first phase in Antiquity is called the All-Rise phase. This is where you take men off all of the city buildings, return them to their homes so you can prepare to place them in new buildings. In this case, because I don't have any buildings built yet, I don't have any men to take off. So I'm going to move right into phase 2. This is the city building phase. This is where I will build city improvements based on the available buildings. I have 6 wood resources at the beginning to start with, so I can only build buildings that require wood. If you read the rule book, it will tell you or recommend to build at least 2 or 3 carts in your first turn. So that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to build 3 carts, which will cost me 3 wood. And I know this because on my player aid, it lists all of the available buildings and their cost, as well as their function. And I like to place my resources that I've used next to the building that I've built in order to keep track of all my resources for the turn. After building my carts, I'm going to also need to man them. And at the beginning of the game, you essentially get 4 free workers by building the 4 free houses here from the housing section. And I'm going to place these into my board like so. Once you place buildings on your board, they're there for the duration of the game, so it's important that you think about where you're placing them. As you can see, I'm preparing in the future to build a granary right here. Okay, so I've built my houses. I'm going to activate the 3 carts that I've built by placing men on them. And now I can move on to the third phase, which is the order phase. The order phase is the determination of player order. In this case, you determine it based on the total number of manned carts and manned explorers, if you have any, and compare them with the person that you're playing against, and whoever has the fewest will be first in turn order. If there's a tie, you'll leave the turn order as it is, which is randomly generated at the start. Okay, so after the order phase, we move into the fields phase. During this phase, each manned cart shop that you have can build a countryside building or a new city. So this means I can take the remainder of my wood resources that I begin with and build new buildings in the countryside. So I'm going to begin by building 2 woodcutters and a fisherman. Building the countryside buildings works in the following way. It relies on this concept called zone of control. The zone of control refers to all of the hexes that are within 2 of my city. So I can build and harvest resources from any hexes out to this point here, with the exception of the C hexes, which actually block my ability to reach this tile in this case. So to build a woodcutter, I require the cost of 1 wood. I will then find a hex that has wood on it within my zone of control, for example, this hex here, and then I will clear the wood by placing down these grassland tiles on all of those that surround the wood tile within my zone of control. I will place the wood resources on the tiles. And as you can see, this is why some people say this game is rather finicky. I will take my meeple from the cart, place it on the tile, which was the center of the wood that I'm harvesting. And I'm going to leave him there now until all of this wood has been harvested. In this case, that will take 6 turns because I get 1 wood per turn in the harvest phase. For my second woodcutter, I'm going to build it out here. So again, I will clear the wood by placing grassland tiles, place the wood resources on top, take my meeple from the cart and place it on the wood tile in this case, which is within my zone of control. Okay, I also want to build a fisherman. To build a fisherman also costs 1 wood. I'll take one of these dock pieces and I need to place it adjacent to water. In this case, I'm going to place it here. I will place my fisherman, which he's going to come from my manned cart, onto the dock. I then have to do what's called pollution, and this is a really interesting part of this game. Pollution shows that the resources have been depleted off a particular tile. In this case, my fisherman will be able to fish in any hexes which are adjacent to the dock. So I can actually fish on both sides here, even though they're 2 different water regions. I then need to select what it is that I'm going to fish for, and my options are either fish, pearls, or dye. I'm going to choose fish because it's a food, and I'm going to place 1 fish in each of the sea hexes. I've now built my fisherman. So that is the end of my fields phase. I'm out of things that I can build with the resources I have and the men I have available, so I'll move into phase 5, which is the store goods phase. In the store goods phase, any goods that I had left over that I have storage for, I would be able to keep. Otherwise, everything else would be discarded. Phase 6 is the harvest phase. In the harvest phase, I will now go out to the fields and take 1 from each of my workers. So in this case, I harvest 2 woods and 1 fish. And those will become my resources for my next turn. Phase 7 is the explore phase. In this case, I don't have any explorers and they're not manned in my city, so I'm not able to do any exploration. Phase 8 is the famine phase. This is what you can think of as the feed my people phase. And you need to have enough food in your storage or from your harvest in order to meet the famine level of the city. At the beginning of the game, it starts at 0, so I don't actually need any food for my first turn, but at the end of the famine phase, you'll actually move it up 1 level, meaning next turn I'm going to need at least 1 food if I'm going to have enough food for my city. Phase 9 is the pollution phase. The pollution phase is, as you can guess, where you pollute more of the countryside. So you take 3 of these pollution tiles and you need to place them again within your zone of control. In this case, I think I will place them here and here and here. Phase 10, check for victory. I definitely haven't won, but I mean, it's pretty hard to win against yourself anyways. You kind of just build till you meet one of the victory conditions, right? So let's keep building. Turn 2 begins with all rise. So this again is where you take any men off any of your city buildings that are still out there, place them back in a house, and prepare to place them into new buildings. In the city phase, I'm going to build more improvements using the resources I acquired from last turn. So I have 2 wood and a fish. So I think for my wood and my fish, I'm going to build a new house with my fish, cost 1 food. And that gives me a new meeple that I can bring into play. With my wood, I'll build an explorer. I'll put him here, man him with a meeple. And with my last wood, I will build a mine, which will require this other meeple to go into a cart. Okay, turn order phase, again determined based on the number of manned carts and manned explorers. So I would have 2 in this case, which I'd have to compare with my opponent. Then we do the fields phase. During the fields phase, I have here a manned cart and I want to build a mine out in the fields. So in this case, I'm looking for a mountainous region within 2 of my zone of control. These hexes are now polluted, so I can't actually mine out of them, and I also wouldn't want to disturb the explorer icon, which is here, because I want to explore that space, be able to explore that space. So my option basically is this mountainous region here. So I'm going to spend my wood. I'm going to pollute the mountainous region. It shows that the resources here have now been depleted. Place stone on top. In this case, I've chosen stone over gold because it's a little bit early in the game for gold, I think. I'm pretty new at this game still, though. Who knows? Maybe some people would build gold. And I'm going to then take my meeple from my cart and place it out in the mines. All right, so that's my fields phase. 5 would be to store goods. Again, I've used all my goods, so there's nothing to store. And I also don't have manned storage, so even if I did have goods, they would all just get chucked out at this point. That would be depressing. Phase 6, the harvest phase. So this is where I go out into the fields and I harvest 1 resource from each of the meeples out here. Because this meeple has nothing left to harvest, he's going to come back in this harvest phase. Same with this meeple here. There's only 1 wood left, so he's going to come back in with the harvest. Phase 7 is the explore phase, and hey, in this case, I have an explorer ready to go out. So he's going to go out, and he can find one of these explorer tiles so long as they're within my zone of control, which in this case, both of them are. So I think I'm going to go out and I'm going to explore this one here. Let's see what it is. Ah, it's an olive. This man found an olive. Good job, meeple. Going to bring that olive back, transform it into an olive resource, and add it to my harvest pile. Because I found a food, in this case anything but wine, I have to also move the famine level up 1. Which, hey, guess what? It's now the famine phase. And as you can see, the famine level has reached 2. But I have 2 food in my harvest. I have the olive I found and the fish that I've harvested. So I don't need to build any graves because, well, nobody's starving in my city. Cool. Going on to pollution. In the pollution phase, again, I need to take 3 of these pollution markers and place them within my zone of control. Because I'm going to be pretty interested in... Sorry, this comes off as well. Remove that fisherman dock. Because I'm going to be interested in planting fields, I don't want to pollute my countryside. So, hey, I'm going to pollute the waters instead. And pollute here, and this wood here. Check for victory. Still no win just yet, and we'll go back to all rise for a 3rd turn. In this case, all rise, going to move this meeple off of my explorer building. Going to, shall I build any new buildings? I think I will build a granary, and I will build a new house, and I will build some storage. All right, so to build storage, you can take as many storage pieces as you want for that 1 piece of wood, bearing in mind that you can't remove them afterwards. But I think I'm going to do 3 storage. Going to man my storage. I will build a granary here as I had pre-planned. Granaries are one of the 2 buildings that don't need to be manned by a meeple in order to be active. The other one is a brewery. I'm building a new house, house number 6. Build it. Oh, here I guess. Get another meeple. I think that's the end of my city building phase. I guess I can go out and explore again. What the heck? Oh, and manned cart. There we go. Okay, so that's the end of my building. I now would do the turn order phase. In this case, I have 2 again, 1 cart and 1 explorer, which I would compare with my opponent. I then would move into the fields phase. So with my manned cart, I'm going to go out into the field and plant the seed that I found with my explorer last turn. So to do a farm, similar to before, I'm going to look within my zone of control, in this case for grassland. And I've got this really nice big patch here. So farming, oddly enough, also pollutes. I guess it's one of those things, whatever humans touch. All right, so pollute those spaces, plant my seed, and what do you know? It multiplies. So I'm going to add some olives everywhere here. Take my meeple, place him out in the field, and he's going to now harvest olives for the next 5 turns. I now move into the store goods phase. I have a meeple in my recently built storage here, so I don't have to discard my stone that I still have remaining. Phase 6 is the harvest, so I'll go out and I will harvest 1 stone here, one of my newly planted olives, and a piece of wood, and bring those back from into my harvest box. Phase 7 is explore. So I have 1 more explorer tile within my zone of control here. So I'm going to explore this tile, and it is a cow or a sheep. It's hard to tell actually, or a goat. Maybe it's a goat. Somebody will have to tell me. Okay, so I will put that and transform it into an animal resource and bring that also back to my harvest box. Because I found something other than wine, I have to move the famine level up once more, but that's okay. As we go into the famine phase now, I'm at a level of 3. You'll see that I have a granary, which counts for 3, but I also have in my supply one of those olives and that animal that I just found. So I effectively have 5 food to combat my famine level, which is great. So no graves have to be built in my city still. Fantastic. Okay, next phase would be the pollution phase. All right, I'm still polluting like mad here, unfortunately, and I need to place 3 more of these down. So I'm going to place them here, here, and here. And that ends my 3rd turn. No victory. I don't even have a victory condition picked yet. In fact, I wonder what I'd have to go for at this point. I'm not quite sure. Just trying to show you guys kind of a variety of things, I guess. All right, let's do 1 more turn because I think it's going to get interesting. We're going to build my favorite building. First, we do all rise, so all men come off the buildings. Then we go into the city building phase. And hey, look, I've got 2 stones, so I can build my favorite building, which is alchemy. I'm going to put alchemy. Oh, where's a good spot for it? Let's see. I think I'll build alchemy here. I'm going to man my faculty of alchemy so I can actually use its power. And then I'm going to do man 2 carts here so that I'll be able to do 2 countryside buildings. And I'm going to do 2 farms, which leaves me a wood. So with my wood, I think I'll actually build a brewery. Whoops. Okay, having built a brewery, I've finished my city building phase and can go to turn order. In this case, I have 2 manned carts, so that would be compared with my opponent to see who should remain first in turn order. I then get to go to the fields phase. Now, before I begin the fields phase, I've got a manned person on alchemy, so I can actually now show you the amazing power of alchemy, which is that I can go out and find any hex that is polluted within my zone of control and clear all of the pollution markers from off that hex. So in this case, I think I'm going to choose this hex here, and I will clear off all of these tokens here. The reason I chose that one is because I want to plant two farms. So for my first farm, I'm going to now repollute the farmland, but I'm going to go 1, 2, pollute the farm here, plant my meeple along with some more olives. And for my second farm, I'm going to go 1, 2 and build a farm here on this section. So this is where my cattle are going to go and graze. And then I will slaughter them. Oh dear. This game is more morbid than I thought up front. Okay. So that finishes my field phase, so I would do the store good phase. In this case, I don't have any goods remaining, so I can go on to the harvest phase. And in the harvest phase, I'm going to harvest now one from each of these meeples out here. Looks like this guy is all done mining. And all of this comes back to my harvest box. I would then explore if I had a man on my explorer tile, but I do not. So I go on to the famine, which is right now sitting at 3. And I still have my granary in place, so actually even though I have all this food, it's not really needed because I still have a granary in play, but I now move up the famine level once again. I then go to pollution, and I need to place 3 pollution markers. And this time I think I'll place them here. Oh, they all have to be within my zone of control. Which then brings us to phase 10 to check for victory. So that completes kind of the run through I think I'll show you for the game, just running through a number of different turns. You've been able to see how buildings get built, how resources get produced, how the countryside gets built up. And there's lots of other amazing buildings in this game. I mean, we haven't done philosophy or biology yet. Biology lets you build some free farms. Theology, after you build a cathedral, lets you change which win condition you want to go after. And you can man all of them at once with a single meeple by building a university and having all those buildings around it. So some really cool other concepts in the game that Splotter has really done a good job. Yeah, just making it a really interesting game in that regard. I built a brewery because I was hoping to get a chance to extend my zone of control by building an inn. And then I could pollute even more of the game board and reach other new resources, especially wood. But yeah, there's just so many other great parts of this game, and I've really been enjoying playing it with John. I think we've played 3 or 4 games now, and hopefully we'll be playing another one soon, just like you. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. There'll be more coming, so see you next time.